Good evening. I'm Vice Mayor Dennis Kavanaugh, and I'll be chairing tonight's council meeting. We should have both Mayor John Giles and Councilmember David Luna appearing with us by telephone tonight. Gentlemen, can you confirm that you're with us?
Yes, I'm Mayor Giles. This is David Luna.
Thank you very much. We'll begin our meeting with an invocation by Mrs. Lucia Anderson with the Family Federation for World Peace and Unification, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Assistant City Manager John Pombier.
Please join me in prayer. Dear God, our Heavenly Parent, we acknowledge you this evening as our Creator and the source of all abundance and all that we need for our health and well-being. I pray for your Holy Spirit to be here this evening to give wisdom, insight, and forethought to our council members, as well as information that they may make decisions that will help to ensure the well-being, health, and safety of all of Mesa citizens for time to come. I also pray for any healing that might be needed for individuals in this room or family members, because you, Lord, are the source of healing. Thank you for this orderly process of self-governance, which is also a gift from you. I thank you and pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Anderson and Mr. Pombier. The first item on our agenda tonight will be our consent agenda, and Mr. Kevin Christopher will read the consent agenda for us.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. These are the items on the consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk will be considered as a group by the City Council and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion unless a council member or citizen requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered as a separate item. If a citizen wants an item removed, a blue card must be completed and given to the city clerk prior to the council's vote on the consent agenda. Item 2, approval of minutes of previous meetings as written. Item 3A, act on liquor license application for Arizona Sports and Entertainment Commission, one-day charitable event Saturday, May 14th, 2202 West Rios Salado Parkway. Item 3B, act on liquor license application for Mr. J's Market, 559 North Country Club Drive. Item 4A, act on off-track betting license application for Turf Paradise TP Racing LLLP to telecast Dos Gringos, 1958 South Greenfield Road. Item 5A, act on contract to purchase subscription licenses for the citywide upgrade of IT desktop systems administration software as requested by the Information Technology Department. Item 5B, act on 3-year term contract for private security officer services for various city facilities. Item 5C, act on dollar limit increase to the service agreement for hardware maintenance and toner of pre-production printers for the Business Services Department. Item 5D, act on 3-year term contract for clay, glaze, and miscellaneous materials for the Arts and Culture Department. Item 5E, act on 3-year term contract for window cleaning services for citywide buildings as requested by the Parks, Recreation, and Community Facilities Department. Item 5F, act on 3-year term contract for larvicide mosquito control chemicals for the Parks, Recreation, and Community Facilities Department. Item 5G, act on 3-year term contract for aquatic maintenance repair parts for the Parks, Recreation, and Community Facilities Department. Item 5H, act on contract to purchase a community care emergency medical record system for the Mesa Fire and Medical Department. This purchase is funded by the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS grant. Item 5I, act on 3-year term contract for advanced traffic controllers and software for the Transportation Department. Item 5J, act to renew term contract for large gas meters for the Materials and Supply Warehouse for the Energy Resources Department. Item 5K, act on contract to purchase DNA mixture interpretation software for the Police Department. This purchase is grant funded by the National Institute of Justice. Item 5L, act on 3-year term contract for protective equipment for the Police Department. The initial purchase is funded by Homeland Security grant funds. Item 5M, act on contract to purchase one replacement gas chromatograph mass spectrometer flame ionization detector for the Police Department. This purchase is funded by the Governor's Office of Highway Safety Grant Program, the DUI Abatement Grant Program, and the Police Department operating budget. Item 5N, act on contract for a purchase to convert an existing DUI van to a hostage negotiations van for the police department. This purchase will be funded by asset forfeiture RICO funds. Item 5O, act on one-year term contract for gas data loggers for wastewater collections and wastewater treatment plants as requested by the Water Resources Department. Item 5P, act on contract to purchase spare Headworks washer compactor system for the Greenfield Water Reclamation Plant for the Water Resources Department. Item 5Q, act on 3-year term contract for bronze water service valves, fittings, fire hydrants, and repair parts for the Materials and Supply Warehouse for the Water Resources Department. Item 5R, act on term contract for replacement influent pump discharge valve actuators for the Water Resources Department. Item 5S, act on contract for Greenfield Park Improvements Project. This project is funded by the 2012 authorized park bond. Item 5T, act on contract for Desert Well Number 18 equipping project. Funding is available through the 2014 authorized water system revenue bond. Item 5U, act on contract for home drainage improvements project, construction manager at risk, guaranteed maximum price number 1. Funding is available from the local street sales tax and from Flood Control District of Maricopa County through the Small Project Assistance Program. Item 6A, act on resolution authorizing and supporting the submittal of a grant application by the City of Mesa Parks, Recreation, and Community Facilities Department to the Fort McDowell Yavapai Nation to expand the Making Waves Aquatic Scholarship Program and approving the city manager to accept and administer awarded funds. Item 6B, act on resolution authorizing and supporting the submittal of a grant application by the City of Mesa Police Department's Victim Services Unit to the Fort McDowell Yavapai Nation to provide emergency shelter for victims and children, and approving the city manager to accept and administer subsequent awarded funds. Item 6C, act on resolution authorizing and supporting the submittal of a grant application by Visit Mesa to the Fort McDowell Yavapai Nation to support sales and marketing to promote tourism for the area, and approving the city manager to accept and administer subsequent awarded funds as a pass-through grant. Item 6D, act on resolution authorizing and supporting the submittal of a grant application by Child Crisis Arizona to the Fort McDowell Yavapai Nation to support their children's emergency shelter program, and approving the city manager to accept and administer subsequent awarded funds as a pass-through grant. Item 6E, act on resolution authorizing and supporting the submittal of a grant application by the Boy Scouts of America Grand Canyon Council to the Fort McDowell Yavapai Nation to expand their outreach initiative, and approving the city manager to accept and administer subsequent awarded funds as a pass-through grant. Item 6F, act on resolution authorizing and supporting the submittal of a grant application by Arizonans for Children to the Fort McDowell Yavapai Nation to support their Mesa Visitation Center operations, and approving the city manager to accept and administer subsequent awarded funds as a pass-through grant. Item 6G, act on resolution authorizing and supporting the submittal of a grant application by A New Leaf to the Fort McDowell Yavapai Nation to provide homeless and domestic violence shelter services, and approving the city manager to accept and administer subsequent awarded funds as a pass-through grant. Item 6H, act on resolution authorizing and supporting the submittal of a grant application by Mesa Public Schools to the Fort McDowell Yavapai Nation to support their services for Native American Student Success Program, and approving the city manager to accept and administer subsequent awarded funds as a pass-through grant. Item 6I, act on resolution approving the purchase of and authorizing the city manager to enter contracts for May through September and July through August supplies of 15 and 10 megawatts respectively of electric power and associated energy for periods from 3 up to 10 years. Item 6J, act on resolution approving and authorizing the city manager to enter into 3 separate intergovernmental agreements with the Flood Control District of Maricopa County for construction management, operation, and maintenance of drainage improvements within the city. The Flood Control District will fund 75% of the project construction cost for each project. Item 6K, act on resolution approving and authorizing the city manager to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the Flood Control District of Maricopa County for the purchase, installation, and maintenance of automated warning systems. The Flood Control District will be responsible for installation and operation and maintenance of the stations, including all associated costs after the initial installation. Item 6L, act on resolution calling the primary election for August 30th, 2016, designating election dates and providing the last date for candidates to file nominating papers. Item 6M, act on resolution setting the date of May 16th, 2016 at 5:45 p.m. as the date of the public hearing for the annual assessment for the Mesa Town Center Improving District number 228. Item 7A, introduction of ordinance regarding Z16-009, the 1000 block of North Greenfield Road located south of the southeast corner of Greenfield and Brown Roads, a rezone and site plan review to allow a single residence development. Item 7B, introduction of ordinance regarding Z16-015, 6215 East Arbor Avenue, located south of Main Street and east of Recker Road. Council use permit for a social services facility. This request will allow for a substance abuse detoxification and treatment center. Item 7C, introduction of ordinance regarding Z16-012, 60 South Country Club Drive, located on the west side of Country Club Drive and south of Main Street. This request will allow for an automobile vehicle sales and leasing facility and redevelopment of the site. This is an introduction of the revised ordinance. Item 7D, introduction of ordinance regarding Z16-004, the 8200 to 8600 blocks of East Baseline Road, located west of the Loop 202 on the north side of Baseline Road, planned area development modification and site plan review to allow for a multi-residence development. And item 8A, act on subdivision plat, the villas at Sonora and Ridge, the 7400 to 7600 blocks of East Southern Avenue, located at the northwest corner of Southern Avenue and Sossaman Road. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members, these are the items on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Christopher. Ms. Mickelson, are there any requests from the public to remove an item from consent agenda?
No request, Vice Mayor.
Okay, we'll entertain a motion in a second. We still need a second. There, okay. Motion's made by Councilmember Glover, seconded by Councilmember Finter. Both, would you please cast your vote? And as well as Mayor Giles and Councilmember Luna, would you cast your vote?
Aye. Councilmember Luna.
There's a bit of a delay, I think, in the communication with him.
I'm sorry, if you didn't hear me, this is Mayor Giles, and I'm voting aye.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, the consent agenda passes unanimously. Thank you very much. The next item, not on consent, will be item 9A. This is to take action on zoning case Z16-002. This request is for a council use permit to allow installation of a multi-tenant freeway landmark monument sign within the Greenfield Gateway Commercial Center located at 1728 South Greenfield Road. And we have the applicant is represented by Mr. Steve Earle, who's indicated a desire to address the council tonight. Mr. Earle.
Given my lack of facility with this computer, I'm having a smarter person set it up.
You're lucky I'm not helping you.
It's questionable if you knew me.
I might send it to outer space.
Good evening, Vice Mayor Kavanaugh, Mayor Giles by phone, and the members of the council. For your record, my name is Stephen Earle. With these bright lights on me, you can see all these bandages all over my face. Those that have lived in Arizona long enough to know what they mean. I've had 4 biopsies done this afternoon. I am here today in behalf of the Greenfield Gateway Center. This is a shopping center of 44 acres at the southwest corner of Greenfield Road and US 60 down all the way to Baseline Road. This aerial photograph shows the location of the proposed freeway landmark monument sign. This particular center, regional in character, has had a real challenge with tenancy because it lacks visibility from the very freeway that it seeks to enjoy marketability from. And that's because of the diagonal cross-section of the Eastern Canal, which cuts through that very interchange and forces all 4 of the normal diamond-based interchange on-ramps to be put back at least another eighth of a mile to a quarter of a mile. So you can see on the eastbound traffic, as you come underneath the 39th Street Bridge, you are having to make the decision to get off the freeway before you even see the center. In fact, the wall that ADOT has erected as a sound wall is about 16 feet high. So it blocks all visibility of this particular center. For that reason, they have had some difficulty in securing tenants, long-term tenants.
However, they do have a number that are seeking to remain there and wish to have some visibility in this freeway monument sign. Now, we know that the council has adopted some very stringent guidelines in 2004 because they don't want to see freeway landmark monument signs erected everywhere on all freeway frontages. So in that year, they adopted a series of guidelines. You have them in your staff report. The staff provided this analysis, carefully reviewing whether or not this proposed sign would come into compliance with all those guidelines. Those guidelines, as you can see, include things like you can only have one sign per development. You can't have more than 3 signs in any 3 freeway landmark monument signs in any 1 mile. The project name has to be at the top and at the most visible and must be at least 20% of the sign. You have to have at least 30 acres of commercial land adjacent to the freeway in order to be considered. This has 44 acres. You have to be at least 2,000 linear feet from the nearest other sign. We're at least 4,000 feet away from the closest sign at Dana Park. You have to be at least 650 feet away from existing residential. We're over 700 feet away. You can be no greater than 200 feet away from the right-of-way. We're 38 feet away. It can be no higher than absolutely necessary. Some of the signs that the city has approved have been up to 90 feet in height. This is only 65 because we had to do a test. The city had to approve that it was just high enough to be seen over that ADOT sound wall. It actually has to be architecturally integrated, and it has to have a horizontal balance with a vertical direction, and you can't have more than 750 square feet. You'll see that in all cases, the answer to all these tests has been yes. That is why the staff recommended approval with stipulations. The Planning Commission recommended approval, and so did the design review. We held neighborhood meetings. They were not attended. So I reached out to Mark Taylor, who many of you know. I recently processed a case for luxury apartments on the east side of this very same interchange. And Mark Taylor was quite thrilled to write a letter of support because vibrant commercial is critical to the success of their luxury apartments. So they wrote a letter which I provided to Councilman Finter. This next slide shows the locations of the other signs along this portion of the Superstition Freeway. There are, in fact, 18 miles of frontage along the freeway, and there are a total of 8 signs in that distance. In other words, 1 every 2 miles, when the guidelines allow 3 in any 1 mile. So we're holding tight about not allowing these monument signs very frequently. This is, in fact, the design that's been approved by the Design Review Board. It is consistent with the other signs that have been approved by the council along this stretch of the Superstition Freeway. And you'll note that the top of the sign is Greenfield Gateway Center, and it occupies more than 20% of the total sign. The height and verticality and horizontal dimensions are in keeping with the guidelines. I just thought I would show you a series of the other signs that have been approved by the City Council along this stretch. You'll see that the sign being proposed is at least similar in character. We'd like to say it's a little better. So this request has received the recommendation of support from the staff, the commission, and the Design Review Board. The owners of this center are pouring new investment dollars into the upgrades to the center to solidify the tenancy of their major tenants that are still there, but need desperately to have more visibility from the freeway, and they're looking forward to erecting this sign. That's my presentation. I'd be glad to respond to any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Mr. Earl from members of the council? Mr. Finter?
No questions, just comments. Thank you. I appreciate the brief overview. Originally, I had raised some concerns about this. On your map, you show that big green area of agricultural property that's been there forever. And concurrently, when this proposal was coming through planning and zoning in other areas, that land was being, as you well know, being purchased for Mark Taylor, high-end, beautiful housing that's going to go there. Also requiring a new road that will travel east from Greenfield Road and access MD Anderson Cancer Center and other areas. So a lot of exciting things happening in that area, that intersection. And I just wanted to make sure that the applicant was able to visit with the new property owners. I just saw that these things were happening, and I was a little concerned that not everybody knew with the change in ownership. But great area. We want all the success for the businesses in the area. And I've spent a couple hours out there with the applicant and others, and I think it makes sense. I'm supportive of them doing it. High quality sign, and I think it checks the boxes for some of the concerns that I had before. So I'm supporting it and would like to make a motion for approval if that is okay with the Vice Mayor.
Okay. Got a motion made. Any other questions from council members present or on the line? Mayor Giles or Mr. Luna, if you have any questions about this application, please speak up.
No questions.
All right.
No questions.
Thank you. We've had the motion made by Mr. Finter, seconded by Mr. Glover. Would you please cast your vote? And I think we're there. Okay. And Mayor Giles?
I vote yay.
And Councilmember Luna?
I vote A.
Motion passes 6-1.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Next item on our agenda is item number 10A. This is to take action on zoning case Z15-044. This request is for a rezoning from PEP, PAD, PAD, and LC, PAD, PAD, to LC, BIZ, PAD. That's a mouthful. And a council use permit to allow for the development of a transitional senior living facility at the 7100 and 7200 blocks of East McDowell Road. We have been recommended by staff to handle these items separately, and I do have requests to speak, but first I'd like to invite the applicant, represented by Mr. Pugh.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor and members of the council. And Councilmember Luna on the line, we wish you a quick and speedy recovery. Glad to hear of the successful surgery. I wish you back here soon. And Mayor Giles, glad to have you on the line. Council members, it's always a pleasure to be in the same meeting with my colleague, Steve Earle. Steve is a veteran of this land use business and quite remarkable man in his life and his personality and all that he's done. This evening, we're here tonight on the transitional care facility by the Hampton Group that's being proposed at Ridgecrest and McDowell, just on the southern boundary of the Los Sendas area. Mayor or Vice Mayor, the other question for the moment is we have item 10A, which deals with the zoning case and the council use permit. We have item 10B, which deals with the development agreement. Would you like me to just kind of weave a quick thought on the two topics and then you take them separately, or how would you like to prefer?
That's fine.
Would that be okay? Yeah. All right. I'm here this evening also with my colleague, Reese Anderson, who knows a whole lot more about this case, frankly, than I do, and also John Berry and Don House, who are the principals of the Hampton Group. Council members, the Hampton Group's been around a long time. They began commercial, office, retail, hotel development in the late 70s. In the late 90s, early 2000s, they turned their attention to transitional care facilities and have very successful projects in Peoria, Youngtown, Sedona. Surprise, they employ over 400 people, payroll of $12 million a year. They're very successful at what they do and do a great job of it, and we're proud to be here on their team tonight. The proposal is to develop a transitional care facility that includes 124 independent living units in a beautifully structured 4-story building, 55 feet tall, 60 units of assisted care in a 2-story building, and 30 units of memory care in a single-story building. And council members, that seems like just statistics and numbers, but the reality of it is it's people. It is us. It's our family. It's our friends. It's human beings who will occupy those rooms and have great care in a beautiful environment at this location. It comprises about 261,000 square feet. What this is not is a group of structures that look like houses that house 10 people in each unit. That's not what this is. Those type of assisted living care facilities can be built anywhere. This project cannot. It needs 14 to 15 acres. It needs a good location like this, and it will be an asset to the community. I can remember, council members, as Falcon Ridge and Las Sendas began. I was involved in that project in the late 80s, and then as it transitioned into the 90s, both under Falcon Ridge and Las Sendas, there was always a small portion of acreage for business park. That was 30 years ago. I would say that the landowners have given their very best effort to make this work. Even with the advent of the 202 freeway, there is still not enough demand and traffic. Just as a simple comparison, when the original development agreement was done, the project was intended to be designed similar to Dana Park. Dana Park's a beautiful facility, but think about this. Dana Park has about 68,000 cars a day at the intersection of Baseline and Val Vista. This site has about 16,000 per day. Office vacancies are rampant in the area. Council members, the Planning and Zoning Board brings this to you with a unanimous recommendation of approval. They find the zoning consistent with the general plan. They also recommend the council use permit. There has been some citizen input. Those who appeared at the P&Z meeting appeared and spoke with respect to the height of the building. I don't remember anyone complaining about the use. The height, frankly, council members, is reduced from the allowed height to 55 feet. We have exhibits that can demonstrate that it doesn't affect views and works in the area. We do appreciate your attention tonight. This site is compatible with the uses around it. It will provide a synergistic use with the IASIS site next to us, and we respectfully urge your support and vote of approval. We have consultants, we have friends, we have supporters, we have presentations all available if you would like it or need it or have additional questions. But with that, Vice Mayor, we would conclude our presentation and urge your vote of approval on the zoning aspect of this, the council use permit, and the amendment to the development agreement in item 10B that's necessary. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Pugh. We do have a number of people who have completed cards. First, I'm going to be reading cards for people who support the project but do not wish to speak, just into the record. Or actually, no, these are the people who will speak if required. First one would be Mike Sutton, Cushman and Wakefield, Brian Mussel from Cushman and Wakefield. Again, speak if requested, Sarah Murley and Robert Zambi and former Councilmember Joan Newth. We've had several who indicated support, or no, this is another one willing to speak if requested, Dan Taylor. And then speak if requested, this is Peter Mena. And so those are indicated in support, would speak if the council had a request or a question for any of those individuals. We also have, are there any requests from the council for any of those individuals to speak or questions? All right. Mayor Giles, Mr. Luna, any questions of those individuals, or would you prefer to wait until we finish the blue cards?
This is Mayor Giles. I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay.
No questions.
Thank you. We have two other people who have indicated a desire to speak, and the first one I'm going to call in is Brian Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of the council. In addition to those, Mayor Giles and Councilmember Luna who are appearing telephonically. My name is Brian Campbell. I live at 4309 North Deserts Gate in Mesa, that is in District 5 in Las Sendas. But I came here today in my capacity as an ex officio member of the Mesa Economic Development Advisory, Citizens Advisory Board. Ex officio means I don't get to vote. I serve on that board along with the mayor, ex officio, and the city manager, Mr. Brady, is also ex officio. But we do have voting members who do comply with the open meeting law requirements and everything else. We are unique, we think, as a citizen board in that we try to advocate for economic development in our city, in our region. For example, I represent the city on the executive committee and board of directors at the Greater Phoenix Economic Council, carrying those concerns. EDAB did consider this application along with, as part of their history, they've done this on, in my years, I can think of at least 3 others, plus other projects on land use, zoning ordinances, and things like that. They considered it, and from an economic development standpoint only, this is not to comment on the quality of the applicant, the need for the use that they've put forward. It is simply from an economic development standpoint, we as a city are facing some challenges maintaining large quality parcels near transportation infrastructure. And when you are emerging from an economic downturn, we've found there's great pressure on landowners to try to get a use that may not be as consistent with an economic use. It was a close issue, but EDAB decided against it, and that's in the record before you. But it's something, this is a volunteer board, and they try very hard to carry that message forward. But I just wanted to have those comments and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Any questions for Mr. Campbell? Oh, thank you very much. Our next speaker will be Doug Austin.
Thank you. Vice Mayor, Mayor Giles, and fellow council members. My name is Doug Austin. I am the Executive Director of the Los Andes Community Association located at 7900 East Eagle Crest Drive in Mesa. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the Board of Directors as our President is out of the country and our Vice President was just released from the hospital today, so I obviously drew the short straw. I would like to briefly summarize a letter that was sent to the mayor and all council members on March 29, 2016, outlining our opposition to the project. The letter goes that from our president, David Camp, says that represent the Los Andes Community Association, the boundaries of which nearly encircle the proposed Canyon Wind Senior Living Community. The project will affect Los Andes. There are 3,362 homes in Los Andes and approximately 7,000 residents. Because the project is adjacent to Los Andes, our residents clearly have a vested interest in it. We are aware that the Hampton Group conducted a survey of some of the residents, even though we have a no solicitation policy and signs at the entrances of all of our neighborhood enclaves. Los Andes officials have never been shown neither the survey nor the questions or responses. Los Andes conducted a brief survey of its residents this week via e-blast, allowing 48 hours for the residents to respond. The results of 594 homes, 17.7%, we asked 4 questions. Were they aware of the project? 58% said yes, 40% said no. Were they in favor or against the project? In favor, 41%, against, 54%. Were they aware of the 3- and 4-story structure? 33% were aware, 64.9% were not aware. As to the proposed project and the impact it would have on Los Andes, 46.9% gave a negative response on that question. There was also a comment section, and all of those comments were sent to each council member previously along with this letter. Based on the opinion of the residents, as reflected in the summary above, the original master zoning plan approved by the City Council in 2008 should be followed, and the subject property should be developed for upscale retail. It is our impression that the majority of the residents oppose the project because it does not represent the best use for the property. It has too many stories, and it will discourage younger families from moving in to Los Andes. We respectfully request that you honor the wishes of the residents in Los Andes, where the majority does not support the project and strongly believes that it will have an adverse effect on the community. I thank you for allowing me to have our voice heard, and I'll be available for any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Mr. Austin. Are there any questions?
Yeah,
Councilmember Richens?
In your survey, did you give, so there's a variety of things that can be under his existing zoning and even the proposed zoning, there's a variety of options. Did you poll your residents? One of the things I always like to ask residents, if you don't support this, then what do you support? And did you ask your residents what they might support at this if they were given the suite of other alternatives that could potentially be built on this site?
I'm sorry, on this particular survey, it was just these 4 questions that I stated.
So it's really easy to say no. So what would you presume your residents? I mean, you say high-end retail,
Yeah,
and
they're looking
apparently
for-
high-end retail isn't in
The 2008
work
plan
there,
calls for a hotel, calls for retail, and that's what the residents are looking for.
Do you have survey results that confirm that?
Not with me today, no.
Do you have any at all? Not with you?
Well, I'm
Are
sure
they not
the
with you, or do you have any?
I will say that meetings that people that have attended our board meetings have expressed that to the board of
And
directors.
what percentage of the total Los Cenas population is that attend your board meetings?
It's a small percentage.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for Mr. Austin? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Now we'll open it for council member discussion. It may be easier to ask the gentleman on the telephone if they would like to weigh in. And Councilmember Luna, this is your district, so would you like to go first or allow the mayor to go first?
Sure, I'd be happy to go first, if that's okay, if that's your pleasure, Vice Mayor Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Luna. Go ahead.
So, over the course of these 9 months, actually being as a city councilman, I've been real sensitive to the needs of the Las Cenas community. And what I've seen is it's a community that's thriving, teeming with families and residents excited to be in that area. So my vision for Parcel 51 is one that reflects a vibrant community with economic drivers that would attract a wide range of community members. That would include retail, that would include hotel and Class A office space. I would agree with staff recommendation on denial. That, to me, doesn't conform with the original development agreement of 2008. The property is also in the Elkinsville Economic District, and it's one of the things that we wanted to do there is to make sure that we encourage economic development within that area. I'm also conflicted with assisted living. I'm very much in favor of it. I think it's a great project. Unfortunately, I just don't think that it's appropriate to put it at the southern gateway of the Las Cenas area. And in my opinion, it's not consistent with the general plan and furthering the notion of neighborhood village center with the character areas that provide shopping and service needs for those living in the surrounding area. And so for this reason, and cited in the planning staff report, I would make a motion to deny the Z15-044.
Okay, we have a motion made by Mr. Luna. Is there a second for his motion as we continue our discussion?
This is Mayor Giles. I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mayor. And do you have any comments at this time?
Well, I support Councilmember Luna. This is his district. I know that he spent a great deal of time meeting with the developer and with the folks who live in the area. So my hat's off to him for working so hard on this case for such a long period of time. I agree that this is a great use, and we need these facilities in our community, absolutely. Although I do know that they require a great deal of calls for service from our public safety personnel. But in spite of that, they still are a very necessary and important part of our community. I think this project is a great project. I think it could be built in a less strategic place than at the entrance to Los Cenas. So for those reasons, I support Mr. Luna and will oppose the case.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Are there any other comments from members of the council present here tonight? Okay. Seeing none, we have a motion made by Mr. Luna to deny the application, seconded by the mayor. Would you please?
Before we vote, can we just get clarity on the ramifications of the motion? So the motion is for denial, so voting yes on the motion would deny the case. Right. Voting no on the motion would have what effect?
If you vote for it, then it would be for denial. If you vote the opposite side, then another motion could be made to approve the case.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And Mayor Giles, how do you cast your vote?
I vote yay or yes.
And Mr. Luna, how do you cast your vote?
I vote A.
All right. Okay. The motion fails 5-2. And now, as the city attorney said, we could entertain under the motion. And we have a motion made by Mr. Richens, seconded by Mr. Glover. And so this particular application means that if you vote for, you would be approving the application. If you vote against it, you're voting to deny the application. Are there any comments or from council? If not, would you please cast your vote? And Mayor, how do you vote?
I vote nay. I vote no or nay.
Thank you. And Mr. Luna?
I vote nay as well.
All right. Okay, the vote is complete, and the application passes for a 5-2. So that motion does carry. Now we will move on to item 10B, which is to take action on a resolution approving and authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement, to a development agreement, an amendment to a development agreement to allow the development of the senior living facility as specified in the zoning case C-15-044, which was just approved. And so this is a companion piece to the zoning case. Am I correct, Mr. Smith?
Correct.
Okay. And on this, I don't think we had cards indicating support, but nobody had requested to speak on this item. Are there any questions from members of the council, either present or on the phone, about the amendment to the development agreement? Okay. And so we can entertain a motion for that. It's already done, I think, right? Okay, the motion to approve the amendment to the development agreement was made by Mr. Richens. It was seconded by Mr. Glover. Would you please cast your vote? And Mayor, how do you vote?
I vote no.
Okay, and Mr. Luna, how do you vote?
No.
Very good. Okay, and the amendment passes on a 5-2 vote. So thank you very much for that item. The next item we have tonight is items from citizens present. Ms. Mickelson, do we have any requests to speak?
No requests, Vice Mayor.
No. Okay, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much.